Hey, last time on the podcast, I talked about the junk drawer. And as I began thinking about how the junk drawer and our ministry models feel like they're the same thing, it made me think of another item that are in a lot of our houses. I promise this is probably the last time I'm going to use a household item as an illustration or metaphor, but hang with me. Somewhere in maybe not your house, every house has a junk drawer, but not every house has that treadmill, right? My parents have a house with a treadmill in it. My dad still does use it at least, but lots of houses have that treadmill or that stationary bike or that stack of resistance bands, whatever it may be. And usually these things were bought in a January of some year, maybe a decade ago in January, and you were dedicated or somebody in the house was dedicated. They used it for 9 days, maybe 10. And there was you had the spandex, you had the workout playlist, you were serious about it, And now that treadmill has become an extended laundry holder, or it is just folded up in a closet or in the corner of a room. And here's the deal with the treadmill. Nobody sat down one day and decided to just quit treadmilling or biking. Nobody voted to just abandon it and turn it into a really weird piece of furniture. In fact, it's likely you don't even remember the last time that you used it. It just stopped being used. Like one busy day, one busy kind of week at a time until the treadmill became furniture, not exercise equipment. Here's the correlation. Again, last silly, furniture or home illustration, but I think church visions often feel this way. They're like the treadmill in the house. There's a big meeting, there's a whiteboard full of great stuff, like someone wrote reimagining our Sunday experience across the top, and everybody in the room meant it. Nobody was giving lip service to this. Like the energy was real. And it wasn't 9 days later, but a few months later, the same team, at the same table, but nobody's talking about the vision anymore. They're talking about a staffing gap or whether the budget can absorb another hire. Like nobody rejected this big vision that we came up with. It just kind of quietly became furniture in the room. Listen, if we've never met, my name is Gavin, and listen, this podcast exists to help you add more intention to your mission. That's what I'm trying to do in the kingdom and in the church, is just helping pastors just like you be as intentional as you can about your mission, because you lead the most important mission in your city. And today, we're going to kind of talk about like, what do we do when we have an important vision, but it ends up being treated or seen almost like that treadmill. You keep going to meetings, you keep going to planning sessions, but that vision piece just keeps being put on the back burner. The vision meetings, as we said, they happen and they are good, and you know how this is. People leave energized from them. But, and I think this is a unique problem in churches, the calendar just fills right back up under the old assumptions. And part of the reason is we live in this 7-day cycle. Here comes Sunday. It feels like 3 or 4 days, even though it's 7. And so that staffing issue or that facilities problem or, the budget conversation, it just doesn't feel like those things can wait. And so nobody kind of votes the vision out, but it does get replaced one loud conversation, one loud meeting, one busy week at a time. And then it only takes a few months, and you ask your team, well, what happened to that big vision thing that we decided on? Did we pause it on purpose? And nobody did. Nobody killed it on purpose. It just stopped showing up. That might sound really familiar to you. It's basically every church that I have, not every, but it's a lot of churches that I've coached. In fact, lots of churches who reach out to me for coaching and help have this as a problem, but they don't recognize it as a problem. And the reason is because the treadmill, it doesn't seem like a problem, but it's not being used effectively. It's just where we're hanging our laundry now. Even when I was a lead pastor for 13 years at Woodstock City Church. And, if I'm being honest, sometimes like that vision made it onto the, top of the staff agenda, but we didn't always organize everything in our church around it. We didn't always come back to it as the kind of guiding light, the mission and the vision for everything that we ever did. I mean, it's easy to forget that when, something is on fire, when there's a major staff shift or a budget shortfall. I mean, keeping that mission and that vision in front is just challenging. Now, here's the principle underneath all of this, right? And I'm going to focus on this a little bit because it really comes down to two competing forces that are asking two very different questions, okay? I'm going to think of this as like the two forces are fires and vision, okay? It's kind of like urgent and important, right? So fires are urgent. And here's what a fire asks. What needs fixing right now? And you got to do the right now because it's urgent. But the vision asks, what are we actually building towards? And now, those are very different questions. What do we need to fix right now versus where are we going over time? Because, urgency, fires are urgent and they get noticed immediately. They're very loud by nature. And vision, on the other hand, it really only gets noticed if somebody deliberately makes it loud. I mean, it doesn't get loud on its own. In fact, it whispers if it's left to its own devices. And so whatever gets weekly attention is going to win. And it isn't because one matters more than the other, but the one you talk about the most is going to be the one that's most in focus. The one that shows up more often is going to be the one that everybody is focused upon. I mean, a vision that gets reviewed once a quarter or said every once in a while, it's not, going to be intentionally neglected, but it is going to lose the fight with the thing that's getting brought up over and over and over again. So if you want your vision to survive contact with the calendar, right, it has to compete on the same weekly footing as the fires and the urgency are getting. And they're going to get those whether you want it to or not. So what do you do? Here's some ways to think about, making this actionable for you. I would ask you to ask a question of your team this week. And it could be at your next kind of leadership team meeting, or maybe even at your staff meeting or with your board, maybe with all of these people. Ask this question. When's the last time we celebrated progress on our vision in the same meeting we celebrated putting out a fire? Like when's the last time we gave as much energy and attention to the vision as we are giving to the thing that's sitting right in front of us, the fire? Most teams are going to have to pause and really think about when the last time that happened. I mean, I would encourage you to look back at your last month of staff meetings. If you create an agenda, just go back and look at them or think back to those conversations. What did you talk about? If you sort kind of what actually got airtime, in fact, you can sort it into three categories. Things that got weekly attention because they were very loud, those are your fires. Things that got occasional or maybe quarterly attention because they mattered less in the moment, but you knew that they mattered long time. Those are more vision-centric things, right? And things that got no attention at all. And it is not because they didn't matter. It's just because nothing on your calendar forced them onto the agenda. That third category is usually where the true vision lives the most. And once you kind of evaluate, at least from looking in hindsight, what you talked about and how to categorize those conversations, like once you see it, you kind of realize that you've got two separate kind of jobs, but they're not the same job, right? The strategic move for you is structural. You have to put vision metric conversations on the weekly agenda, and you got to talk about them before you talk about the fire. That's the loudest thing every single week. The fire is going to get talked about no matter what. You have to force the vision conversation. You have to keep it out front. You've probably heard this phrase before, vision leaks. This is why. Vision leaks because it isn't urgent. And anything that is urgent, slowly but surely, is going to be leaked out of the organizational culture. So the relational move on this is pretty important, right? Because people are going to be, fired up about the fire. They're going to, it's affecting them personally. They want to be firefighters. They want to take care of the problem in front of them. And so just even relationally, you have to make sure you are bringing people back, whether it's in individual meetings, in small group or staff or whatever it may be. You've got to be bringing people back over and over and over to the why we exist conversation. The mission, why we is what we do here, right? The vision is this picture of the preferable future, the why behind it all. You have to be bringing people back to that over and over and over again. And you kind of know what happens, right? Vision that only gets, attention, quarterly, every 6 months, it's not even really a vision. I mean, it's really just hope wrapped in some language that nobody can even really repeat. So this week, here's the challenge, what are you going to do with that treadmill? I'm going to ask you to take it out of the corner and get on it and start running. Like, don't just decide mentally, intellectually, okay, we're going to talk about it. Put it on the agenda. Put it at the top of the agenda. One of the things that we should do at Woodstock City is we would ask the question every single week, what have you seen lately that makes you feel that we are accomplishing our mission and our vision? And we would begin every single staff, small group, even one-on-one conversation with that question because it didn't allow the fire to burn up the thing that was most important. So I'd love for you to consider doing that. And if you do, here's my hope, or I could say my promise. I think it's going to change how your vision lives within your church and the organization that serves it.